There are deep links between alcohol and cancer. And having a father who passed from cancer just a few years ago, this is a study that kind of catches our eye. Now, was my dad an alcoholic? Not by any means. He actually hated alcohol, except for an occasional glass of wine or an occasional beer. Nothing much to write home about, not as much as I consumed in a day. He probably consumed in a year. But are there links between cancer and alcohol? Does it elevate your risk? Does it damage your body? I mean, we know there's liver effects, we know there's mental effects, but what is it actually doing behind the scenes? And what are the doctors saying? And what does that have to do with your ability to stay sober? Is the threat of getting cancer enough to stop an alcoholic from drinking? Well, those are the topics we're going to talk about today. And I think it's very important because there's a lot of things going on and there's a lot of studies out there saying this gives you cancer, that gives you cancer, this does this. But what we need to look at is the immediate effects at hand. What's actually going on in our mind? What's actually going on in our body? Should we go see a doctor? Are we alcoholics? And how do we live a good life as a normal drinker or even as an alcoholic that has turned sober? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing well. And yeah, this study came across my feed, and I thought it was quite interesting. And I thought I would share it with all of you because maybe you can relate to some of this, maybe not, whatever. But let's get into it. So this was a large study. It was a study of around 136,000 people in the UK. And actually, even though I put on there that if you're under 50, and you'll see how this relates to you, this study was of people 60 years or older. And what it did is they interviewed them about their drinking habits throughout their life. And, there's some factors involved there as far as this was what their answers were, not that they actually studied them through their life. So this was how they answered questions as far as how much they drank. Were they uh, low amount of alcohol drinkers, medium or heavy drinkers, all that sort of thing. And this study was done by a doctor named Rosario Ortola in Madrid, and it was published by the Journal of American Medical Association. So it's a pretty big study. They did end up cutting out 30 something like 36,000 of the people that were being studied because of incomplete information. So they made it as thorough as they possibly could and only used the most accurate information that they could find. And what some of these findings were is that they were finding that there was mounting evidence showing the harmful effects of alcohol consumption. And if you were or are a heavy drinker, you probably realize that. But they were also noticing that this happens for even low to moderate drinkers. And
Yeah,
so,
actually, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but I found a stat that says um, the study was looking at the consumption higher than the recommended upper limit, which is 2 drinks a day for men. Which I mean, that was before breakfast for me, like
yeah,
easily, or 24 grams of alcohol. And when we think about it, I mean, an alcoholic pours a drink a little different than at the bar, right? I mean, when I mixed my drinks, it was like that much drink, that much of whatever else I was mixing it with. And this is saying that the equivalent per day for men is 24 grams of alcohol, which equals 1 ounce, which I
yeah,
don't, I don't even think that's considered a shot.
no,
Isn't a shot 2 ounces? I could be wrong.
it's
Let me
one and a half.
1.5. Okay, or 12 grams for women, which is like a half of a. So that's a third. Yeah, that's a third of a shot is
Yeah,
giving the effects of this. Um,
that's the scary thing that about this.
yeah,
And so that's what they're considering a low drinker. And so this so they talked to these older drinkers, and they did not talk about whether they were still drinking or they had stopped drinking or whatever. That wasn't a factor. It was their factor of drinking throughout their entire lives. And what they found was this was pretty interesting and scary, actually, because they were finding that low risk drinkers did definitely have a higher risk of cancer mortality. And moving on up the ladder of drinking, they found that moderate risk drinkers or moderate drinkers had a higher risk of cancer. They also had a higher risk of other forms of mortality. And the high risk drinkers or the heavy drinkers, they had a higher risk of all types of cancer and cardiovascular disease as well. And it just, as the people continued, as they got heavier and heavier drinkers, or they studied heavier and heavier drinkers, the negative effects were bigger and bigger. And some other interesting things about it was that we've probably all heard that there's benefits to like one glass of wine a day. It helps with your cardiovascular. It helps calm you down. This and that. And they did not find any evidence of any benefits of alcohol whatsoever.
That
And
that study, I'm pretty sure, was proven to be made by big alcohol. Like
yeah,
that was funded, and it's interesting when you look at that because, I mean, I try to be health conscious. When my dad got sick, I got really health conscious. I started having smoothies. I got hypochondria pretty bad because I worry about
hmm
everything, and I I started looking at things, and I mean, we watch documentaries and we try to understand food and where it comes from, and specifically the American diet is just absurdly terrible. I mean, it is the worst thing you can do. And one of the things that is interesting is how alcohol consumption works, because when you have a hangover, when you have anxiety and all these things, it is because it's depleting things that your body needs. It literally sucks them out. I remember years ago, and don't use this idea if you're still drinking, but and I won't tell you what it was, but I remember years ago I went to Colorado, and in Colorado you're a mile above sea level, which means you get drunk a lot faster and you don't know it. I mean, it's you drink half as much up there and you get double the effects. And I remember we were out one night and we were drinking really heavy. And before we went to bed, we had to get up for the conference in the morning at like 9 a.m. And I had a couple of friends, and I said, "Hey, take these little vitamin packs." And they took the vitamin packs. And in the morning, we were fine. We were ready to go at 9 a.m. Why? Because we replaced what was depleted. And when you have a hangover, when you have anxiety, it is constantly depleting these things in your body. And so if you're an alcoholic, I mean, I thought I was Mr. Bitchin' because I never had a hangover. Well, every alcoholic never has a hangover because we never stop drinking. Do we have a hangover? Yeah, that's the way of life. We just feel like shit and drink through it. But what is that doing to our body? How is that wreaking havoc? I lost a lot of weight at the end of my alcoholism, where I was basically living on 5,000 calories of alcohol a day. It's all I had. I'd pick at food, never ate fruit, never took care of myself, didn't really care. And did that cause harm to my body? Yeah, absolutely. It's very bad. And some of the vitamins that it depletes are B1, B3, B6, thiamine, magnesium, vitamin C deficiency. And I think wasn't vitamin C deficiency like the whole thing scurvy? I think that's why the pirates
is
got
that what it is?
scurvy,
Yeah,
because they didn't have oranges on the ship or something like that.
right.
And we start to look at this and it's like, hey, we are having some extreme things going on that are affecting our body in ways that we didn't even think possible. And that's one of the benefits to getting sober is I feel great now. I mean, I feel good pretty much all. Like last night, I went to bed at 2:30 because I was working. I was stressed out on something. Woke up at 8.
I think I woke up at 2:30.
There you go. And I woke up at 8, and I feel okay. Am I a little backlogged? Yeah, probably because I'm 45. Maybe that's it. But putting alcohol in that, like I think about it now, there's no way in hell I could drink like I used to at the age I am now. There's no way. Like, it wouldn't be possible. I'd be in the doctor's office 24/7.
But if you were if you were still in the throes of your alcoholism, you would still be drinking.
I would be.
So
Absolutely.
even
Absolutely.
though there's no way that you can, you would be.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about it.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
this study was talking about some of the different cancer risks that you have. What the interesting thing about for people under 50 is that so cancer rates have actually gone down over the past decade or two, like 33%, something like that. It's a can the or, so the cancer rates have gone down. Cancer has become more treatable. However, among young people, one of the particular cancers that has gone up is a colorectal cancer, and that oftentimes they do attribute that to alcohol use. And but some of the other ones, the liver, stomach, breast, head, neck, throat cancers, are also attributable sometimes to alcohol.
Mhm.
And but you know, there's other risk factors as well. You know, and that's weight, the poor diet, obviously the alcohol use, and physical inactivity. Well, you know, think about those things that I just mentioned. I don't know about you, but with me, when I was drinking, yeah, I was heavier. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I had a terrible diet, and I didn't do much physical activity.
Mhm.
And then I drank. So, of course, yeah, those four things would contribute to poor health. And definitely, I had poor health. I had high blood pressure. I was pre diabetic, and I had other issues. I'd get dizzy if I bent over to pick up a pencil I dropped and stand back up too quick, you know, all sorts of different things. I'd be out of breath going up a flight of stairs, stuff like that. I was definitely not very healthy. Absolutely not. And and that the craziest thing about this is so I've kind of talked about this study here, and is me talking about this study going to make any of you that are still drinking stop? Certainly wouldn't have made me stop. That's for sure. I'd be like, whatever, I'm fine. I feel pretty good. I felt pretty good, even though I was unhealthy. I was telling you my unhealthiness because that's what the doctor told me. I felt I was fine. I mean, I knew I wasn't the picture of Men's Health magazine, but but I was fine as far as I was concerned. And I was like, yeah, I'll stop drinking tomorrow. That's the challenge here: is we get these studies, statistics, things like that. This is what alcohol is going to do for you, yet we keep on drinking. That's
Mhm.
the challenge of the heavy drinker or the person with alcohol use disorder, alcohol slash alcoholic, is we have these, we're getting these negative consequences. The challenge is we have to recognize them, and yeah, and that's where a lot of us tend to fail, and that's what we're here to help you recognize, is help you recognize that there are consequences. And I don't know if I'm going to have consequences later on in my life because of my early drinking, but what I can do now is not drink anymore and try to live that healthy life. Try
Mhm.
to eat healthy, which I don't always do. Try to get that physical activity. I'm pretty good about that. And you know, things like that. Get enough sleep. Make sure I don't take that drink and I live that life that I want to live.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to point out that Terry and I are not doctors, we're not physicians. We don't know anything about health other than what we read. And I think that the key here is in realizing that alcohol really messes you up. If you're drinking in a consistent way, you have to think about what it's like, right? So for me, I would say at the height of my alcoholism, I would have at least 20 beers a day, probably a bottle of wine or some kind of hard liquor at night, and I had a lot of it. And that was a day, that was a regular day for me. And if you were to think about that, I mean, 20 beers a day is 6,000 a year. I mean, if you have 6,000 of anything in a year, it's going to mess you up, right? Other than like water and healthy stuff. But you start to realize like the way our diets work and the things that are in there with alcohol. Um, you know, I had a lot of heartburn when I drank all the time.
Mm,
I never
me
have it
too.
anymore. Yeah, I never have it anymore. Very rare. Like I'll get it once in a while, really, really bad, but it's usually attributed to like eating Chinese food on an empty stomach or something, something that's obvious it's going to give you, eating chicken wings or something. But when I
That
was drinking, yeah, go ahead.
Wait, that's really interesting because I just realized just now that yeah, I was taking Prilosec every day to keep my heartburn down.
Hmm.
I don't take it anymore.
Yeah,
I don't need it.
yeah,
And yeah, like you, I if I eat, big old pizza late at night, yeah, I got some heartburn going on for sure.
yeah. And it's interesting because I think I'm not again, I'm not a doctor, but from what I learned, I spent a lot of time around my dad when he had cancer, and I'm one of those people who I ask questions because I want to know, and it annoys people, and I'm like, well, you know what, I want to know, so whatever. And I saw the bill for your doctor visit, so I'm going to ask some things, and I would talk to the doctors about things, and if I remember correctly, chronic heartburn does lead to cancers. It does something in your body where it's over and over repetitive, messing things up. And you think about the study that Terry looked at where esophagus cancer is elevated with alcohol use. That's probably why. Um, Having these inflammations all the time and depleting your vitamins and not uh, being able to deal with these things normally in the body because you're living on alcohol does cause a lot of problems. And the funny thing about this, like Terry said, would this make me stop? No. It would probably make me drink more because back then I didn't want to be alive. So I'd be like, well, there goes that. What am I going to do? Just another thing that happens to me. And that was how I lived. It was funny. I was watching, you've seen the channel, the Big Noah or whatever he is, Big No No
Yes,
guy. Um,
big no no.
yeah, he's constantly relapsing. And I saw a video earlier today from him, and it said, why does this keep happening to me? And that just like rung the bell of alcoholic mental thought process for me because that's what I thought. I remember when my grandpa passed in 2013, I'd been going through a lot of things. We were trying to move across the country, everything was falling through. And I thought to myself, like, how much more can I take? And, now that I'm sober, I'm like, my grandpa's passing really had nothing to do with me. Sure, I was a part of it. I loved him. I missed him. It was difficult, but it wasn't something that happened to me. Like, we look at life as these are things that happen to us, and we take it personal. It's like the people who believe in the law of attraction stuff. The universe is going to give me this. Really? Well, if that's the case, I really hope the universe goes and helps the people in countries that are at war. Like universe, I don't need another car. Go take care of those people. But we get these ideas that, what we want, we need to go get. And that's all fine and good, but, looking at it as this is what happens to me, this is what doesn't, and constantly being on that wheel of I fail, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that, I want, I don't want, this happened to me, is a recipe to be an alcoholic. I cannot tell you how much I subscribed to the self-development, personal help stuff before I got sober. I was trying so hard. I thought I could, mental positive thinking my way out of drinking. And, get rid of the stinking thing. And yeah, that's after you've already quit. Like a lot of the AA stuff is after you've already quit. And that's what people don't understand. They think, okay, I'll get this book, I'll do this stuff, it'll help. And it can. Or they think this, that, and the other. Or I'll go to therapy. But the problem is you're trying to treat a mind that is dampened and messed up by alcohol with sober thoughts. It's not going to work. It's like if you were trying to take someone who speaks Chinese and teach them something in English. No. You need to learn Chinese first so that you can talk to them. It's not going to work. And what's happening is your brain is looking at things the wrong way with your alcoholism. And to prove it, if you're an alcoholic and you watch this and you were like, yeah, whatever, cancer's elevated, I guess that's another reason to drink. That's what I would have done. Like if I'm honest with myself, I would have been, yeah, okay. Well, I guess I better keep drinking. It's too late now, right? But the fact of the matter is getting sober is what is going to change things. And we have to have alcohol off the table completely. Not 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 5 ounce, one beer on Saturday, two beers on Wednesday. Has to be completely off the table.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but I remember when I was drinking, this was kind of my thought process going, between when I was drinking and then when I'd, well, maybe wake up sober or whatever it was. So the drug, the post taking a drink times and when I was sober. When I was sober, I would never be thinking about stopping drinking because I had this craving. I had this obsession. I needed to take a drink. At least I felt I needed to take a drink. I needed to find a drink. When will I have a chance to get that drink? Where will I get it? How will I hide it? Da 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 da. You've heard this a million times. But then I'd take that drink, and then I'd be like, oh man, I gotta stop. What am I? Okay, I'll stop tomorrow. It just kept going on and on like this. I would be sober. And I thought about drinking. Then I'd take a drink. I wanted to stop. What a way to live, man. It was very frustrating. And then finally, when it came time for me to really start to think about stopping drinking, and that was when I was drinking, but then finally, things just started to get so bad for me. I hit what many of you probably already know, a bottom. And for me, the my life was it was more important to me than that bottle. That's what made me make that jump into actually stopping drinking. And it was hard, man. I mean, I was crying. I was a mess. And I was finally able to stop drinking. Of course, I started drinking again after rehab and then went through the whole deal again and was able to stop. Once I got stopped, and as Marcus was just alluding to, then I was able to start really working on that thought process of how not to continue, not how not to take that drink. It's maybe starting to heed some or read some of that advice and heed some of the advice from counselors and doctors about the dangers of drinking and how bad it is, and looking back on my experience and how it was affecting me and starting to actually look at that through a focused lens and realize, wow, I really was a mess. And I really need to make sure I don't drink again. And whatever it is, I have to totally not take a drink, no matter what happens in my life. And that's what I've been able to do. And many aren't. Many, Marcus just talked about the other YouTuber that relapses, and that's hard. And I can't say that I'm not in his head. I don't know what's going on in his life. For me, it's just taking care of myself. A lot of people, when they relapse and maybe they go back to AA or whatever, they go to a counselor and people tell them it's not your fault. And for me, I don't take that attitude towards myself. If I start drinking, I'm the one that started drinking, and for me to stay sober, I'm the one that has to stay sober. A relapse is not a relapse happened to me. It's I started drinking again. It was my choice. And yeah, there's a disease in me. And I do know that if I do take that drink, then, I'm going to have a lot less control and the alcohol is going to start to control me. But for me to stay away from that drink, I'm the one that has to do it. That's what a lot of our program talks about is taking your own responsibility. How do you do that? And what can you do on a daily basis to keep yourself away from that drink? And that's really what I try to do on a daily basis is just stay away from it. It's not something I have to constantly work on. It's just developing this new perspective towards life, towards alcohol, and just being that allows me to not have to fight that drink anymore. That's what I try to do. And yeah.
That's I'm reading while you're talking about that.
Uh-huh.
Alcohol is actually a class one carcinogen. I did not know that.
Oh,
That's something they don't really teach you. Hey, the wood that you cut is going to give you cancer, but they never talk about alcohol. But it actually is on the list of group one carcinogens, right up there next to tobacco.
And okay, so
and arsenic.
I assume group one is the most toxic.
I believe so. Yep,
Okay.
known human carcinogens, asbestos, uh, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, coal, indoor emissions from household combustions, um, coke production. That's coke with a K. I think is that know what kind of coke that is. Engine exhaust. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's right
Okay.
up there. It's
Woo.
like straight up, and they don't like that's big alcohol. They are hiding it. They don't want you to know that because it sells. I mean, how big is the alcohol industry? How big is the alcohol industry
It's
USA?
big.
Which is funny because you lived in California not too long ago. I lived in California in 2016. Before I left, you would go to a fast food restaurant and you'd get fast food and you'd leave. A lot of people who don't live in California won't know this, but now you go to a fast food restaurant and it says this place is known to use chemicals to the state of California that cause cancer. It's right there on them. It's like, hey, you can get cancer by eating here. Is that on an alcohol bottle? I don't think so. Let's see,
Nope.
California
No, it's not. But
alcohol.
there are some people that are trying to get that onto the bottles. I do know that.
Yep. So they're trying to get Prop 65 on it.
Is
Yeah.
that what that is?
They
Okay.
want it to say drinking distilled spirits, beer, coolers, wine, and other alcoholic beverages may increase cancer risk. And
But
daily
really, it's is that going to stop anybody? I mean, they got the labels on the cigarettes too.
yeah,
Does that
exactly.
stop people
It
from
stops
smoking
people who
those?
don't smoke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, and actually, this study did mention the fact that, well, actually, somebody analyzing the study was mentioning the fact that many younger adults are just choosing not to drink at all,
Yep.
and I don't know the accuracy of that statement, but
I think it's
maybe
true. Yeah.
that'd be a good thing.
Because it is, I have noticed, when we go to concerts and stuff, it's not as prevalent. There are mocktails literally everywhere now,
Okay.
and many of them. Like we go out to dinner, and we too can spend $30 on drinks. So there you go.
Yeah,
Um,
mocktails are just as expensive, that's for
they
sure.
are, but they are good. I mean, I enjoy a good mocktail if you have, a chef that came up with the stuff. I remember one place we went, this French restaurant. They had a pre-planned meal with the mocktails that mixed. So every course they'd bring out, they'd have the mocktail that fit. It was good. It was expensive, but it was good. And I think that's interesting because I know a lot of people talk about quitting smoking and things like that. I was a cigar smoker for years. Never really thought about quitting, but I was addicted. I mean, that's why I don't smoke today because I know that addiction will kick up after the first cigar. Can't have one. Um, if I get a craving, I'll go around people who smoke and just sit by them. It's like, okay, there you go. Probably not a good thing to do because secondhand's apparently worse than firsthand. But I mean, looking at, what you learn, because I grew up, I don't know if your parents smoked, but I grew up where, it was raining outside. We'd be in the car with all the windows up. Dad would have a cigar. Mom would have a cigarette. And I mean, you couldn't even see out the car. It's like a complete
Look
hot
like
box.
Cheech and Chong, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got two licenses, one on the front and one on the back. And it's interesting because you look at that, and when I quit, I'd like to say that I went through some magic transformation that helped me quit smoking. Actually, it was my dad. He was sick with cancer, and he had asked me to look at the cancer in his mouth. He's like, I want you to see this, look at it. And I'm like, Dad, I don't. I'm a germaphobe. I don't like seeing things. And he's like, you got to look at it. And I'm like, fine, whatever. I'll look at it. Fine. Took one look, put the cigar down. It was the last one I ever had. That was probably Dad
Wow.
doing me a favor. He probably knew that would scare me straight. That and then the hypochondria was really bad because I would sit there and I'd smoke and I'd get a lump in my mouth as we do all the time, and I'd freak out. Like I would literally be up at night worrying about, oh my gosh, what is this? I'd make a doctor appointment the next day and they'd get mad at me because I'd have to find the dentist that could take me that day or the doctor that day. I didn't want to wait, and that all stopped when I quit smoking. I still have some, but it's explainable. Like if I have a lot of soda, which again isn't bad for you, but they don't spend much money telling you it's not bad for you. They tell you, what parts are good for you. And actually, it's funny. Coca-Cola back in the early 1900s, and I think maybe even the late 1800s, it was marketed as a medical product before it was ever a soda. And, it was like cure this, cure that, cure the other. And it was cocaine infused, I believe it was back then. But, it's interesting the things that we look at and the things that affect us and the things that mess us up. And unfortunately, here in the United States, you got to be in charge of your own health. No one's going to do it for you. It's more after the fact rather than preventative. And if you're going to do preventative, you got to do it yourself. Nobody told me. Like, I remember the doctor straight up was like, you have alcohol misuse, not an alcoholic. She just straight, and I'm like, okay, well, I just told you the numbers that in your book it says, so why are you skirting the issue and not telling me I'm an alcoholic? Why wouldn't you say that? And I remember when I wanted to go to rehab, I was seeing a therapist, and me and my wife went to therapy, and it was the day I was like, yeah, I'll go to rehab. And we were all excited and everything. We called the rehab. Nobody called us back. Nothing happened. The only way I got into the rehab I went to is because I, went there and gave them the credit card, and they were like, okay, show up. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of help. We live in a society where a lot of people are on their own. We do things on our own. Neighbors never come check on you. I don't even think after the hurricane too many people check. We have one neighbor who does, but most of them don't. And that's, the kind South, right? California, there were neighbors I didn't even know. Lived next to them 10 years. Didn't even know them. Same with doctors and stuff. You have to be in charge of your own stuff. And I guarantee you, maybe not the first year, but after you get sober a while, it'll be the best decision you ever make.
Oh, yeah.
Feels like it's not going to work. Feels like you don't know what you're going to do. It feels scary. But you know what? That's the alcohol telling you that because you've been trained that way. There is a better way. You don't have to feel the way that you feel anymore. Never again.
Yeah.
I never have to feel a hangover again. I never have to be so anxious because of alcohol that I can't even go get the mail. Like the mail is at the end of the street and I couldn't go get it because my anxiety wouldn't let me leave the house. And it wasn't me. I sat there wondering what was wrong with me and blaming myself instead of alcohol. And it's like, wait, no, it's kind of the drink, because take the drink away, I'm okay. And you learn to live a new way, and it's a way that's better, and it's a way that will change the way you think, feel, and act, and you won't be addicted to alcohol anymore, which is a big plus.
Yeah. And I know that's the way Dave Johnson feels, and I have to read his because, he says, I'm so much healthier now than when I was drinking. 3 years sober on October 14th.
Congrats.
Happy birthday, Dave. That's awesome. Your Talk Sober program has been a huge part of my sobriety. Thank you both. And Dave's been here since he got sober. We even had a private call with him early on in his sobriety, and he's been here. And thank you so much for your support, Dave. We really do appreciate it. And it's great to get your comments on our shows here, definitely. And yeah, sobriety is pretty incredible. For me, I was really lucky when I got sober. I was pretty happy right away. Yeah, there was some health issues and things like that, and I was tired and all the normal stuff that we go through. But I certainly felt good, and I was very happy to be sober. And I haven't had to have a drink since then.
And it saves a crap ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
You want to share about our recovery class that Dave was talking about?
And it doesn't just save a ton of money on the alcohol, but it's everything else. I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm made of money. I'm going to buy everything that I just want right now. Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Open up Amazon. I think I want this new stereo system. Let's just get this, even though I have one.
Impulse control.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you guys want to support us, or if you're looking for some sort of a sobriety program to help get sober, help you stay sober, you can go over to talksober.com, and you can see it on the screen right now. And you click on that yellow button, join our online recovery class. There's 30 modules in there. There's videos, there's exercises, there's what to do from this day to the next day to keep you from drinking in between, and you can follow along with that. So go on over there to Talk Sober. If you'd like a private sobriety call with myself and Marcus, you can click that second button down, and we'll schedule a call, and we'll talk to you about your personal journey that you're going through, and maybe we can get you some good insight. And there's on should I go to rehab? You can click there, and there's actually a little test on there, and that's free to do, and you can check that out and maybe give you an idea on whether you do have an alcohol problem or not. And we have a Facebook group you can go to. And yeah, go on over to talksober.com and check us out.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate you. Hop on over to talksober.com, support the show, get all kinds of MP3s, MP4s, cool stuff about sobriety. We're actually going to be redoing that, I think, at some point. But there's lots of good stuff in there. We worked really hard on that program for you. So thanks for being here. If you guys got any topics you want us to cover or questions about sobriety, post them as a comment below. Smash the like button, and we will see you next week.